跟着云老师学技术，
跟着 Jess 毁三观，
跟着鸟鸟在发育，
婊子们的性生活，
婊酱。
Thank you for joining me, Juliet.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So can you briefly introduce yourself?
I'm 49 years old, and I live here in this big house with my husband, Roland, who I've been married to since 1998, and his other love, Laurel, who we met in 2007, our daughter, Maya, who's 7, and a family friend, Barry, who's 70 now, and we've been living here for about 5 years in the Netherlands.
Yep.
We started out with sort of a semi-open relationship. It wasn't completely open, but I knew that I had a problem with monogamy. So we didn't know what polyamory was. We just knew we were going to try to do something a little different.
Was that quite stressful at that time? Or?
No, it was a huge relief. Because I had cheated before, and I didn't want to cheat anymore, but I saw that I tended to develop relationships with people over time, and that I didn't expect I could be with just one person for the rest of my life without that happening again. And he fortunately accepted that idea, which was revolutionary.
So you just brought that to the table and discussed it? Yes,
exactly. I told him that, I didn't know what to do. I told him that I had cheated before, and that it seemed to be a pattern and that I would probably cheat on him. And he said, maybe there's another way. Maybe you don't have to. You can just tell me.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah. It was. Very surprising and...
Yeah, very supportive.
Not a typical... Yeah, not what I'd heard before, that's for sure.
But maybe he already gave you this kind of, I don't know, impression that you can talk openly to
Well, I had cheated with him. I was married to someone else. He was my lover.
Okay.
And so he knew my struggle with loving more than one person at the same time, and he believed that I honestly loved my husband and that I loved him. The problem was I was lying, and that was the bad part, not the loving part. And so, he had that in his head, definitely.
Yeah. So that means you first opened up and find someone else, and then he met...
Oh, yeah, well, that was the original idea, right? It was all going to be my thing, and he wasn't going to date, he didn't need anyone else, and, he was happy to let me be me.
Yeah.
And you see how it all turned out? Now he's the one with a permanent second relationship, and I'm still looking 20 years later, so I've dated. But, it's worked out interestingly.
So now you're living with... I don't know how many people.
There's 5 in here.
5 in here. Yeah, and 2 cats. And how does that work?
It's fine. We get along really, really well. So we're a very low stress, no drama sort of group, and we choose partners. We tend to choose partners like that. Otherwise, we don't even want to bother.
Yeah,
it's just too hard. Now, of course, we've been through a lot of drama. We're all in our 40s or 50s or beyond. So we've sort of been there, done that, and decided, okay, now we know what we want, which is a kind of quiet, harmonious, but interesting life. It's anything but boring. So
yeah, but not. So can you share a little bit about your daily routine?
Yeah, sure. It's not very interesting, actually. We've had quite a few reporters follow us around, and they've done documentaries on us, and I think sometimes they're a little disappointed that there's not more excitement. We're really a relatively normal-seeming family with a child who gets up in the morning and has to be gotten ready for school, and usually I wake her up and give her clothes, and she gets dressed and comes down, and one of us makes her breakfast, and then one of us takes her to school, and one of us picks her up, and in the middle we do our work here at home. We have a business at home, and we work together, which is also interesting.
Yeah.
Our family together, and we work together. Another big taboo, don't work with family, but it's
Why
working.
not?
It's working for us.
Yeah.
And then we love to cook, so we have family dinners every night, and pretty much every night. Every once in a while someone goes out, has a date, or something else to do. And that's about it. It is a luxurious lifestyle in terms of having more people to get things done. around the house, more people to help with Maya.
Yeah.
She gets a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Which is a good and a bad thing, I guess. She
In what
certainly
way?
doesn't. She doesn't have to spend a lot of time on her own. So she's not very good at playing by herself. She's used to having, company. And she also gets along very well with adults, even better than with kids. And I think that's because she's surrounded by adults. And she knows how to manage us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess she never felt like stranger. Because she was not like brought up in another kind of family.
She hasn't experienced the switch. Now, at some point, we expect somebody will start saying something to her about the weirdness of her family. But it hasn't happened yet. In 7 years, nobody has overtly said anything that would suggest to her that there's anything wrong with our family. I still think it's likely to happen. Maybe when she's a teenager and kids get really fierce. I don't know. But so far, and that's good, we're building up a really strong young lady there who I think will be able to say, and so, that's what we hope.
But do you think that's also relevant to the Dutch,
Sure.
society
Yeah,
in
things
general?
are much less drama-oriented here. They don't want to... Now, they don't want you to stand out, so that there's kind of an issue there. And I think it's good that we're not, sort of flamboyant, We don't have wild parties. We're not always dating different people. We're not, we don't stand out. And so then they're like, that's fine. Do what you want.
And it's actually quite normal to have multiple parents to, for example, pick up kids in school.
Yeah, these days, blended families, with divorces and whatever, other people coming around, or adoptions, or whatever. Yeah, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And we are also really comfortable with it. And when Roland and I were still deciding what we were doing, other people were more uncomfortable with it too. But as soon as we settled down and we were comfortable and we told people, they didn't see any reason to get upset because we weren't. So, doctors, teachers, the people Maya interacts with are like, oh, okay.
And for her, it just doesn't make any difference. Of course, Mama and Mommy are different, but it's just not the biological and non-biological mother.
Yeah, she knows the difference.
Yes.
Whose womb she came out of. But yeah, it doesn't, at this point anyway, it doesn't seem to be a big deal to her. She just has 2 moms.
Yeah, it's just like a mom has 2 kids or something like that.
That's true.
Yeah, So for a lot of couples who want to open up when they already have kids, do you have any advice for them to?
It probably depends on the age of the kids, to some degree.
Yeah,
I mean, with little kids, you don't really need to say much or do much. I mean, having people around, you have people over, they're friends, you have people over for dinner, you have people over for breakfast, There's no need to make a big deal of it. For little kids, they're just mommy and daddy's friends, as kids get older, when they're teenagers, they start to have, fixed ideas. Now, I haven't been there yet, about what dating and romance is, and then you might want to, explain to them that you believe that it's okay to have more than one, person in your life at a time. I bet that's harder if you're teenagers when you're just starting out, but I wouldn't know yet. With little kids, I see no reason to make a big deal of it, because they don't.
No, they don't. Yeah,
it's just people around.
That's true.
And if the people spend a lot of time around them, it's usually a good thing. They develop relationships. There's a lot of fear over, what happens when the person leaves? But people leave your kid's life all the time. Teachers stop working at the school, babysitters move out of town, friends move away. People are coming in and out of your kid's life all the time. Now, again, we don't have a revolving door here with people coming in and out and in and out. People come and then they stay for a while and then they may move on. And that's just no different than life, I don't think.
That's true.
So.
Yeah, perhaps it's a society that gives too much meaning to intimate relationship than the other relationships, like you said.
Well, it's not like the kids are in the bedroom with you,
No.
So if people are hanging out in your living room or your kitchen or your kid's bedroom or whatever, having fun, playing with the kid, I think that's good for the child to have more adults in their life. And, maybe there's this mistaken idea that you're exposing a child to more sex or something, but you're not. That's bedtime.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, one of our audience asked, because now he's opening up his marriage and he wants to have multiple lovers, and he was wondering if it's a good idea to have them meet each other. And
oh yeah,
what do you?
Definitely.
Yeah. but he's kind of like it's kind of counterintuitive, or
you mean whether to have them know who each other is or keep them kind of separate, parallel in his life? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, he prefers to have
it separate.
Separate.
I know someone who generally lives like that. I personally think that but they would know about each other or not?
Yes, they
would know.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise it's non-consensual. Yeah.
Then I think it's really important because that this is a whole jealousy thing. You imagine this other person, and especially women. I don't know, maybe it's as bad for men, but we imagine this other person has got to be, prettier, sexier, better, smarter, does everything better than we do if you don't know who they are. Yeah. And then you meet these people and you realize, oh, they're actually just people. We're all complex beings with a whole package of things to offer. And, there's this fear that this person will be better in bed. But... there's always someone in the world that's better in bed than you. There's somebody that's better at cooking than you. There's somebody that's better at singing than you. There's somebody that's better than you at everything. But that doesn't mean you're not lovable. No. And your partner is with you for your whole package.
Yeah. And everybody is unique.
Yeah. And you're with someone not just because of one talent or aspect of their personality. Mm-hmm. So what? Now, obviously, if someone's the best in the world or the worst, then, that may make a difference. But most of us are just kind of normal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So if you don't meet them, you can imagine all these things. I think it's much less stress to get to know each other. And if you don't have to be friends, best friends, you don't have to hang out or make time together, but just to know who each other is, I think is a huge relief.
Yeah, that reminds me of the book More Than Two. It says, try your best to fall in like with your metaphors.
Oh, falling like?
Falling like, yeah.
Well, sometimes, it can be the most wonderful thing when you spark a friendship with these people, because then you have this thing in common, this partner, and you have it's like a powerful force working, it's just two, or you have three or four all supporting each other in this wonderful network of love and support, maybe just friendly support, but you've sort of got this common cause, and it's a very powerful, wonderful thing. One of the best things about polyamory is being there for each other. Maybe someone's car breaks down, and you can help out, or maybe someone gets sick and you can help out, or whatever. Just being there in that way is really special. Yeah. And you can work together for special things like their birthday or, special occasions, something nice for the person or whatever, which is just really sweet.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess a lot of people would assume that putting like different lovers together would be more like awkward, or they would be competitive. I think you just debunked that myth.
Well, it depends on the personality of the people, of course. If people have a what I call a giving mentality, rather than a what's in it for me mentality, because people are really afraid. They're afraid of losing what they feel is theirs. And that's, I think, the fear that causes awkwardness when you meet someone. And I I'm not completely immune to it either. There's someone else my partner loves. Maybe I will lose my partner to that person. It's possible. And that's scary. But if you go into this meeting with this idea of I have to stake my claim, I have to make sure that I am, in this person's life and that I'm important and I what's in it for me, then it could be really awkward and competitive. If you kind of go into it with an open, flowing, that sounds very hippie, kind of, open mind, I guess, so that these people feel welcome and you accept what could happen as a result. And usually turns out okay.
Yeah. So do you have any more pragmatic tips of dealing with jealousy? And
work on yourself. Get your life in order so that if you don't have a partner, and this is where I think solo poly folks can really have an advantage. A lot of us in couples or in stable relationships, you're used to having someone there, and you kind of depend on that to feel whole. Yeah. But the important thing is that you feel whole no matter what. And I think that was really important for Roland and I to make peace. We almost split up at one point when things were going really badly, and I really thought it was over. And so I made the decision to start over on my own and do it right, and that I was going to be okay. And that was a turning point in my whole life, and I started to build up my own life and do my own things and make my own friends. And he came back, and what he got was a whole person, not a dependent person. If you're whole, then nobody can ruin you.
Yeah, and you don't lose anything.
Exactly. I mean, you could lose your partner, and it would hurt. If he left, it would be really bad.
Yeah, okay.
But I have a full life, and I have other friends, and I'll survive. We're extremely resilient, and that's what you have to believe in order, to, I think, to overcome jealousy, is that I'll be okay, even if this person leaves me for whatever, and that helps a lot.
Mm. What do you do in daily life to develop the kind of relationship between metamours? Or you just don't do anything specific?
Well, it's not like, I don't know. I haven't had that many. Roland has only dated 2 ladies in this whole time. So he's had 3 relationships in his whole life. So he's very, he's chosen well, I guess. He's got 2 of them still with him. Yeah. But so I don't have a lot of experience with that. But the first one was a Portuguese poly lady. And it was really good for my jealousy because she was actually polyamorous, so I didn't have to worry about her taking Roland away, which is most people we date are monogamous, and in the end they want to take the person away, or they don't want to be a part of this lifestyle. So that's really hard and brings out my own jealousy. But she was really poly. She was in an 8-year relationship with a lovely fellow, and so it was a great learning experience for me to be with someone who kind of taught me what it is to be involved with another poly person. So we tried to do some things together, but it's not like we tried to be best friends. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with Laurel. We get along amazingly well, but we're incredibly different. She's a gardener and an artist, and she knits, and I'm into techno, and very different things. So we just share this sort of common family value that lets us live together harmoniously, but we don't hang out all the time or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it just depends, I guess, on the dynamics. I think it might be worse in a way if we were like best friends, because that would add another element of drama, or potential element of drama that we don't have. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, can imagine. And also, you talked about a lot of people actually are monogamous, and if you open up your marriage or relationship, then you meet a monogamous person, then it must be much harder.
It happens a lot. Because people are hearing about polyamory and they're curious and they want to try it out. And I read this thing a while back from a Facebook friend that said you can't try polyamory on a hat in a store or a dish in a restaurant, because you're really playing with people's hearts.
Yeah.
And if you just go in there and you're like, oh, I'm going to see what this is like, and you don't really think it through or believe in it, you just sort of dabble in because it sounds exciting, you're likely to get hurt. And I've dated many guys who, in the end, it sounded interesting, but then you realize there's a lot of work involved, and you have to make a decision, I think, a conscious decision that this is a better lifestyle for me than the other way. And until you do, it's risky.
Yeah, and it may hurt other people.
Yeah, exactly. People's hearts are on the line. This is not like a toy. Now, I know we all have to start somewhere, and we all make mistakes, and we all do it wrong at first. But I think there's there's a lot of value to sincere thought and effort, rather than just saying, "Oh, I'm gonna see what this is like." That sounds kind of cool, having multiple girlfriends or whatever. You have to enjoy this whole process of talk, and think and working through issues, your own issues, your jealousy. What do words mean to you? What does commitment mean? What does love mean? What does sex mean? Well, all these things, you really have to define them, because your other person may not be seeing them the same way as you. So yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah. So that brings us to our last question. So does poly really require someone to be really rich in terms of time, money, energy, emotional literacy?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I'm one of those poly people who has absolutely no problem with monogamy, and I don't think polyamory is right for everyone. And I'm actually, in many ways, monogamy requires you to dig really deep.
Monogamy,
because you have to you dedicate yourself to one thing, one person, for your whole life, and that's a powerful commitment that I think requires a certain kind of strength and energy to keep generating interest and make it work for a lifespan. Yeah. Polyamory is a completely different kind of work, and they both require commitment. So it's polyamory is, yes, you have to be really comfortable with change, because things are going to change. You cannot want things to stay the same or people to stay the same. and you probably should really enjoy this process of getting to know people and nurturing relationships and caring for them after they've ended and bringing along new ones, and that should be fun and interesting and fulfilling for you. And if it is, then it's a good path to take. So you just have to really get to know yourself, and say, where are my strengths and where's my energy? I think monogamous people often have other things they would rather be doing with their time than working on relationships. Maybe they have multiple kids. Maybe they're getting a PhD. Maybe they're, starting a company. Maybe they want to focus, or maybe they really want to focus on that one person. I think that's perfectly valid. Maybe like us, they want to, explore different relationships and get what they can out of that.
Yeah, that's true. People have different interests. Like there are asexual people, aromantic people as well. So, but money-wise I think in general, monogamy is more like economically beneficial for people. Well,
I don't know. We're the only reason we can buy this house, this big house here, is because there's 4 of us. And our income. And as a couple, there's no way Roland and I could have bought this house. True. We share expenses. We get an amazing tax break because we have a single business, but we only pay taxes on a quarter of the income each. Which is, your taxes on 20,000 are a lot less than your taxes on 80,000. Yeah. So I don't know. It sure is more expensive to date if you like to go out to eat and things like that, depending on what you like to do. I find dating very expensive because I like those things. But in terms of living, I think it's actually more economical. If you want to share a house, doing the solo poly thing, that can get more expensive. I actually think it's better for the environment. To share these resources in this way.
Yeah, that's true.